An entrepreneur and author, chairman or owner of food chains such as Pizza Express and Patisserie Valerie, and a former chairman of Channel 4, Luke Johnson.
I think one of the unfortunate things that's happened is that the country has got petrified. You know, we're the most nervous large nation of any. So the government's propaganda has frightened us rigid. And
I mean, it does look like we have the second highest deaths at the moment, so people maybe have
yes,
good reason to be scared.
Yes, but if you are... How many people who have no other morbidities under the age of 60 have died from this illness?
Who have no other morbidities?
Yeah.
Because I can tell you how many people under 65 have died. And obviously
under
some of those
60,
with other morbidities,
no other morbidities
may well have survived. A morbidity doesn't mean you're...
350. You're more likely to drown. There's 400 people a year that drown, right? So I think we have to get things a bit in context.
What comfort would that offer to the families of those who've lost loved ones?
Every death is tragic, but believe me, we're already in the largest recession for 300 years. In fact, it's not just one recession. The Bank of England have said the economy will shrink by 14%. That's the equivalent of 2 recessions. It's a depression. And I wouldn't be surprised if we have 2 million more unemployed people within a year. Imagine the agony of 2 million more unemployed people. How many deaths might flow from that? How many deaths are flowing from the fact that we've got half as many A&E appointments at the moment? Cancer patients not being seen, people with heart disease not being seen. And the collateral damage of this campaign of fear and lockdown has to be taken into account. Very soon, I believe, lockdown will be causing more deaths than the virus. I tell you what most disappointed me about the Prime Minister's speech, which I do think was vague, and I wasn't really paying attention to the message, was the fact he repeated the line that I think was a figure first put about by Neil Ferguson of we've avoided 500,000 deaths. I don't think this country was ever facing 500,000 deaths. I think that was a ludicrous exaggeration. I think it was scaremongering.
Well, it was 500,000 if nothing was done.
And a bit like Sweden. He was estimating about 10 times the number of deaths they've had if his model had been followed. And I don't have a great deal of confidence in a lot of the advice that the government's getting, I'm afraid. And so I think that's my problem with his speech. I think the government has an impossible task, and they're never going to please everyone. And the messaging, as Stephen said, is very difficult to get across well. I think that the more complicated you make it by dividing up the country and regions of even England, then the harder it's going to be to get compliance. And bringing in the example of China locking down regions. China is a communist dictatorship. They can lock down whoever they want, and they bring in the military to do it. So I think we are not a comparable society. We are a civilized democracy, and therefore I don't think we can adopt the same sort of methods that they use in China, and it's not relevant.
Yes, I mean, in China, they're walled, well, they kind of seal people in their homes.
Is that what we want? I mean, as it is, we've given up more liberties than ever in the history of this country over this lockdown, and one shouldn't forget that we are a free society, and the way in which we've waived our rights so that we are under effective house arrest as a nation should not be taken lightly.